I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make this simply stunning and beautiful Margaux Chic shawl by Rebecca Velasquez. Now that I've whet your appetite for this really fantastic shawl, let's go ahead, gather your materials and your pattern, and we will jump in. Rebecca Velasquez is a wonderful knitwear and crochet designer. She also happens to be one of my best friends. Her design aesthetic is simply incredible, and the way she puts together garments and accessories I find fascinating, and I am excited to be able to share with you one of her patterns. Now, in the video today, we will be working on a small example of the shawl. This is my little swatch I did right here. And in this swatch, I worked up rows 1 through row 11, and then I did a row 8, and then I did a row 53, which would be in your pattern. That's the row that you do before you jump into this really great and simple edging. Now, the reason we're doing a smaller sample in the video is because nobody wants to watch me crochet a shawl for 3 days, right? What you want is the information that you need in order to make the shawl on your own, correct? Well, that's what you're going to get in this video. I will walk you through rows 1 through 11, and then it's just a matter of repeating rows 8 through 11 until you get to row 51. Once you get to 51, you repeat row 8 again, and then you do a special row 53. Then you jump into the edging. So the really great thing about that is once you get through row 11, you should be ready to go and be able to move on and make the rest of the shawl without any issues. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Once I get you through the body of the shawl, I will teach you how to do this beautiful edging. Now, the edging in the example shawl is done in one color, but in my little sample down here below, in order for you to be able to distinguish where the edging stitches are versus the body stitches, I did it in 2 different colors. Okay. Besides those little things, there's a couple things I want to point out. The first is that I will be following along with the instructions, and I encourage you to do the same. Whenever I do a video here on YouTube, I do not do the video so that it's a standalone without the instructions. I expect you to always have the instructions side by side so that way you can watch the video, look at the instructions, and work on your work. This will not only help you get a perfect piece of crochet, but it will help you become a better crocheter and learn how to better understand written instructions. Okay, so it's very important that you have those instructions with you along with the material. The other thing I want to point out is that we are going to be doing some special stitches, and I will go slow as I teach you those stitches. But once we've done it a couple times, we'll move it along a little bit faster. So if there is a point in the video where you feel like you need to pause and maybe redo a couple of the pieces or a couple of the stitches that I just taught you, go ahead and hit that pause button. I'll be here waiting for you to join in. All right, now that we've gone over those little things, go ahead, grab your yarn, and let's jump in with row 1 of the Margaux Chic shawl. In this video, I will use the color green tea for my example, and we will begin right down here at this part of the shawl. This is where all the action begins. I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way, and let's jump in. We begin with a slip knot, so go ahead and place the tail of your yarn in the palm of your hand. Take your working yarn, wrap it around your forefinger and your middle finger, and when you come back up, cross over. Now rotate your hand over, go underneath that front loop, grab the back loop, and bring it off. You now have a slip knot. Place that slip knot directly onto your hook. Following the instructions, the pattern now states that we need to chain 5. So let's go ahead and chain 5 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure you don't have those super tight. You want to make sure that they are the same size as the shaft of your crochet hook. Once you've changed those 5 stitches, the instructions now want you to take your stitch marker and they want you to place it in the 4th chain from hook and the 5th chain from hook. So you never count the loop on your hook. So we would count 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to place the marker in the 4th one. I'm going to take another marker and place it in the 5th one. Now that I've done that, the instructions state that I need to go ahead and do a treble in each of those marked chains. So a treble crochet, we need to yarn over our hook twice, go into that chain that's marked, which is the 4th chain from hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Now we have to do that again in the next marked stitch. So you yarn over your hook twice, go to the next marked stitch, which would be the 5th one from your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Those are treble crochets. Now this is important. You will be doing these treble crochets along the entire wingspan of your shawl the entire way. So make sure you understand how to do that treble crochet. Now that we've done this treble crochet, the instructions say that we need to go ahead and turn. Now, row 1, we're going to do a special stitch. This is a stacked treble crochet. The purpose of doing a stacked treble crochet is that it makes the stitch look very nice and clean, and just like the other treble crochets along the edge of the shawl, making it unnecessary to add any extra sort of border along the wingspan of the shawl. It's rather ingenious actually for Rebecca to do this. Here's how you do a stacked treble crochet. You don't do a chain 1 or anything. You simply turn your work, go into that very first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and complete a single crochet. Now working into the leftmost vertical bar right there, we're going to go into that leftmost vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and complete a single crochet. We need to do that a total of 2 times. So if that's once, we need to go into the leftmost vertical bar of the single crochet we just completed, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Can you see how it looks like we have these really nice sets of V's over here along the side? This is actually the top wingspan edge of the shawl, and it makes it look very nice and clean. That stacked treble crochet counts as a treble, so we would carry on with the pattern. The next part of the instructions say that we need to do another treble crochet in the next treble crochet over. So we will do a treble crochet in the next treble crochet over. There you go. And now we will chain 1. Great, we're on our way. Let's look at the next part. Oh boy, these might be some instructions that you might not have ever run into before. You have a parenthesis, and then within the parenthesis you have brackets, instructions within the brackets, and then the end of the parenthesis. Don't worry, I'll walk you through how to read this part of the instructions. The first thing I want you to do is let's ignore the first parenthesis, okay? Let's look at the bracket. We have a bracket, and then it says 2 double crochet cluster, chain 3, end bracket. So the first thing you need to know there is that you will do a 2 double crochet cluster and a chain 3 for a total of times written outside of the bracket. In this example, it's 4 times. So we will do all of those instructions within the bracket, a total of 4 times. Then it says you do a 2 double crochet cluster again, and then it ends the parenthesis. So everything that's within the parenthesis, that is what we are going to do in the next chain 3 space, okay? So all of the instructions that are within the parenthesis, we will do that in the chain 3 space. That's written right outside of the parenthesis. All right, so all of that, let's do this. You ready? So we will do a 2 double crochet cluster, and this is one of those special stitches, you guys. Yarn over your hook, go into this chain 3 space, yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over your hook and draw through 2. Yarn over your hook, go into that same chain 3 space, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop. Yarn over your hook, draw through 2. Now you have 3 loops on your hook, so you yarn over your hook and you draw through all 3. This here is a 2 double crochet cluster, okay, that there. Now we chain 3, And that represents one part of the instructions that's written in the bracket. Remember, we have to do this 4 times, right? Because that's the number that's written outside of the bracket. So if that's once, we have to do that again. And we're going to still do it all right here in this chain 3 space. So let's do another 2 double crochet cluster by yarning over our hook. Go into the chain 3 space, yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, draw through 2. Yarn over your hook, go into the chain 3 space, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop. Yarn over your hook, draw through 2. Yarn over your hook, draw through all 3 loops on your hook. Now chain 3. And that is the second time we've done what's inside the bracket. So we have to do that 2 more times. See how I just scooch those stitches along the space of those chains? So if they start to scrunch up and you're running out of room, just scooch them over so that you have more room. Let's do that 2 double crochet cluster. This time I'm going to do it a little bit faster because I feel like I've walked through it pretty slow those first couple times. And chain 3. So that's 3 times I've done what's in the bracket. We have to do that 1 more time. I'm still in that same space. So let's do the 2 double crochet cluster. Oop, that one came off. There we go. And then chain 3. So that's 4 times I've done what was in the bracket. And remember, there's still a set of instructions outside of the bracket before we get to the end of the parenthesis. And it says we have to do 1 more 2 double crochet cluster right out here. So we'll be sure to do that. Yep, right there. Okay, so we have 2 double crochet cluster, chain 3. We did that 4 times. That was our bracket. And then outside of the bracket, it says to do 1 more 2 double crochet cluster. And we did all of that into that chain 3 space. See, you can read a pattern. It's not that difficult if you take your time to just break it down a little bit. Let's move on. The next part of the instructions say that we need to chain 1. And then working into the open loops that we actually have marked over here, we're going to put a treble crochet in the first one and a treble crochet in the second. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to remove my green marker because that's my first one. I don't need it in there while I'm doing my treble. So I yarn over my hook twice. I will go into the open loops down here that I didn't use and work my treble crochet. And then going to the next stitch, I'll take out that marker too. So going into the loops unused over there as well, it's right there, I will work another treble crochet. If I were to set this down, what we have done here is we've created the start of our wingspan, and this is the start of the body of our shawl. Pretty simple, right? And just here at the very beginning, you have already probably learned a lot about how to read a pattern. That's going to help you immensely in the rest of this pattern and your future crochet reading patterns. Let's move on to row 2. For row 2, we go ahead and have our work turned, and we're going to work back along all of these stitches. We start off with a chain 1, and we will put a single crochet in this first treble crochet, and a single crochet in the next treble crochet. And then we chain 1. Looking at the instructions, you'll notice that there's another bracket. This time we don't have parentheses on the outside of it. So whatever is within the bracket, we will do that the number of times that's written outside of the bracket. So the instructions want us to put a single crochet in this double crochet cluster right here. So we'll do that. Then it says to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And it says 4 times. So if we did that once, we'll go to the next double crochet cluster and do a single and then chain 3. So that's twice. We'll go to the next double crochet cluster and then chain 3. So that's 3 times. Go to the next double crochet cluster, do a single and then chain 3. After that, you would go ahead and do a single crochet in the next double crochet cluster, chain 1, and then do a single crochet in the 2 treble crochets here at the end. And that finishes off row 2. Not so bad, right? Let's move on to row 3. For row 3, we go ahead and turn our work and we will do a stacked treble crochet again. So remember, we don't chain. We go ahead and work a single crochet into this first stitch. And once you've done your single crochet, going into the leftmost vertical bar of that single crochet, you will work another single crochet. And then you do that one more time in the single crochet you just created. And voila, you have a stacked treble crochet. Now you will put a treble crochet in the next stitch over. So we have 2 treble crochets, and following along with the pattern, we do a chain 1. And then in this chain 1 space right here, we're going to do a half shell. Now the half shell instructions are written in the special stitches section of your pattern. If you ever have a question about any of the stitches, or you have a little bit of doubt of what you're supposed to do, always look at the special stitches section of your pattern and it will give you detailed instructions. But you're here with me, so I'm going to walk you through it. For the half shell, we go ahead and do a 2 double crochet cluster. So it's just like we did before. We do these partial double crochets and then we pull through, chain 3, and then we do one more 2 double crochet cluster, all in that same space. So I'm doing all of this all in that first chain 1 space right there. This double crochet cluster, chain 3, double crochet cluster is a half shell. Okay, let's move on. Now we go ahead, chain 1, skip a single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, and we double crochet into this single crochet. Once you've done that, you then chain 5, single crochet in the next single crochet, chain 5, double crochet in the next single crochet, chain 1, skip this chain 3 space, skip this single crochet, and over here into this chain 1 space, we will do another half shell. This will make both sides of the shawl symmetrical. So we go ahead and we do our half shell, which starts off with a 2 double crochet cluster, chain 3, and then another 2 double crochet cluster in that chain 1 spot. Chain 1, and then you will work a treble crochet into the next single crochet, and a treble crochet in the last single crochet. If I set this down, this is what your work looks like so far. We are beginning to build our really nice shells out here with our half shells, and we're setting up the groundwork right here to build shells right there. Now you've worked through row 3, let's move on to row 4. For row 4, we go ahead and have our work turned once again, and we start off row 4 with a chain 1. We'll do a single crochet in the first 2 stitches. So there's a single there and a single there. Now we chain 1, single crochet in the first double crochet cluster, so we will single crochet right there, and then we chain 3. Then we single crochet in the next double crochet cluster and chain 2. Now in the instructions, you'll see that there are parentheses. Whenever you see parentheses, they're telling you that whatever is written inside of those parentheses, you're going to do it in the stitch that's indicated outside of the parenthesis. So for this example, we will do a single crochet, chain 3, single crochet, all into this chain 5 space. So we'll do a single crochet, chain 3, and a single crochet, all into that chain 5 space. Now I will chain 2 And you'll notice we come to a parenthesis again. So we will do a single crochet, chain 3, and a single crochet all into this chain 5 space. Once we've done that, we chain 2, single crochet in the next double crochet cluster, chain 3, and then we have to single crochet in the last double crochet cluster, chain 1, and then single crochet in the last 2 trebles. I'm reading the pattern along with you guys as I'm working, so that's why there's those little pauses, just in case you're wondering. All right, so as I set this down, you can see, once again, we're just building on the work we've already created. And by placing all these stitches in the correct spot, we're creating the groundwork in which to build our shells, which is what we will do with row 5. So here we go. For row 5, go ahead and turn your work, and we begin again with a stacked treble crochet. So I will go ahead and complete my stacked treble crochet just like I've been doing all along. By this point, you should know how to do it, so I'm not going to take the time to go slow. But there we are with our stacked treble crochet. We carry on with the pattern, and we have to do a treble crochet in the next single crochet. So that way we get our 2 treble crochets here along the edge. Can you see that? All right, once we have that, we go ahead and chain 1. And working into this chain 1 space here, we will do a half shell. So let's go ahead and work our half shell by doing our 2 double crochet cluster, chain 3, and then working our next 2 double crochet cluster. Again, the instructions for the half shell are written in the special stitches section of the pattern. Once you've done this, you go ahead and chain 1. You will skip a single crochet, skip these chain 3s, and then put a double crochet into this single crochet all the way down there. Once you've done that, you chain 1, and we will put a shell into this chain 2 space right there. Now, a shell is a stitch we haven't done yet, right? So where can you look for those instructions? In the special stitches section, you will find how to do the shell. For a shell, you do a 2 double crochet cluster, and then chain 3, and another 2 double crochet cluster, chain 3, and one more 2 double crochet cluster. And all of this is all in that same chain 2 space. So that there is our shell for this pattern. Once you've completed the shell, you do a chain 1, and then you double crochet in the next single crochet, which is right here. It's right next to the shell you just created. Can you see that? After the double crochet, you go on and you work a chain 1, skip the next chain 3 space, and we will put a shell right here into this chain 2 space. So let's go ahead and work our shell pattern. Just like we've been doing all along, we start off with our 2 double crochet cluster and then chain 3. And then we have to do that again. Chain 3. And then one more 2 double crochet cluster, all in this same chain 2 space. Now the next part of the instructions, you'll see that once you complete this shell, you will then chain 1, and it says repeat from star ending at star star. So you will go up in your pattern. Let's bring this down here. Maybe you can see here. At this point, I would go up here where my pattern is and I find the star. And then all of the instructions I see written after the star to the star star, I'm going to follow those now. And this is where your pattern repeat happens. This is why it's so important to understand how those stars and star stars work when you're dealing with a pattern. Okay, so I go up to the star and it says to skip this single crochet and skip this chain 3 space, and then I need to double crochet into this single crochet. So I will go ahead and double crochet into that single crochet. Chain 1, and now it says to do a shell into this chain 2 space. Cool, we know how to do this. We are old hat with this, and this is what we will do through the entire pattern. So see, you already know how to work one of the major stitches of the pattern. Simply do the shell as indicated in that chain 2 space. There we go. So I just finished the shell in that chain 2 space. I will chain 1, double crochet in the next single crochet, chain 1, and then it says skip 3 chains. And this is where I see the star star. So I know that I need to then go back down to where the instructions are, where it told me to repeat, and continue from there. So going back down to where it told me to repeat, it says do a half shell in the last chain 1 space. So there's my chain 1 space right there. So I'm going to do my half shell into that chain 1 space. Pretty easy stuff. What makes it so easy is that both sides of the shawl, they're symmetrical. So whatever you do on one side, you need to do on the opposite side. Once you finish your half shell, you chain 1, and then we will do a treble into each one of these last single crochets of the row. There you have it. We have finished row 5. And we're ready to move on to row 6. Here we go. For row 6, you go ahead and pick up your work and give it a turn and do a chain 1. We'll do a single crochet in the first 2 treble crochets. Now we chain 1, and you'll notice in the instructions you have a star again. So just pay attention, because this is where the start of your repeat happens. You will single crochet in the next double crochet cluster. Then you will chain 3, 2, 3, and it says repeat from star across to the last double crochet cluster. So what I'm going to do now is I'll go back to the start of my star and repeat that all the way until I get to the end of my row to the last double crochet cluster. So if I go back to star, it says to do a single crochet into the double crochet cluster and then chain 3. Find the next double crochet cluster, do a single, and then chain 3. Double crochet cluster, do a single, and then chain 3. Double crochet cluster, do a single, chain 3. See how this is working? I find the double crochet cluster, do the single crochet in that cluster, and then chain 3. It's pretty easy. This is one of those straightforward rows. You don't have to do a lot of extra work, so it's going to go by really quickly. It's a nice relaxing row. And as long as you have done all of your previous rows correctly, this will end really great and you'll be able to build on top of it. Come here, there's a double crochet cluster here, and then chain 3. Let's see here, I have 2 more double crochet clusters. Remember, I have to go to the last one. So I will put 1 single crochet into that double crochet cluster, chain 3, and then now that I'm at the last one, I will single crochet in the last double crochet cluster, chain 1, and then single crochet in the next 2 treble crochets. And that finishes off my row 6. That's a pretty easy one, wasn't it? We've just really set it up so that way we can build again on the next row. Okay, row 7, here we come. We are almost there, guys. Let's do this. For row 7, we go ahead and start with a stacked treble crochet again. So let's go ahead and do that by working our stacked treble crochet here at the start. And we will put a treble crochet in the next single crochet. I'm going to be following along in the pattern with you guys, so make sure that you have your pattern out. This is a long row of instructions, so let's go through this rather slowly. The first part of this says we will begin with a chain 1. Now we want to put a half shell into the chain 1 space of the row below. It's right there. You see that? This is where we're working our increases of our shawl. Remember when I told you that? So we want to make sure we do our half shell into this chain 1 space. And we know how to do this half shell at this point, right? We don't have to go too slow with those instructions. We know how that works. All right, so now we have the half shell in that first chain 1 space. Now we chain 1, double crochet in the next single crochet. So that's right here. So we're going to place a double right next to all of that half shell we just did. Perfect. Now we chain 1, skip the next chain 3 space, and we're going to put a shell in the next chain 3 space. So let's go ahead and create our shell into the next chain 3 space. Again, by this point, you should know how to do the shell stitch. It's rather easy. It's still just a combination of the 2 double crochet clusters and the chain 3. So here we go. Almost done with my shell. You always end up with 3 double crochet clusters in your set here. Can you see that? All right, so we just did our shell in that chain 3 space. Chain 1, skip the next single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, double crochet in the next single crochet. So we will double crochet in that one. Chain 1, skip the next chain 3 space, and we will do a shell in the next chain 3 space. So let's put our shell down here. There we go. So we have a shell into that chain 3 space. Now it states that we need to chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, skip the next single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, and single crochet in the next single crochet. Now here we go. This is important. Right here it says we need to place a marker into this single crochet we just made, and that will indicate the center of our shawl. So it's very important that we know where that is, because there are parts in the rest of the instructions that will tell you to crochet to that marked stitch. So it's very important you use that marker, okay? Once you've marked the stitch, you go ahead and chain 3, skip the next chain 3 space, and put a shell in the next chain 3 space. So we will put a shell into this chain 3 space. You'll notice that what we're doing now is very identical to what we did on the opposite side, because both sides of the shawl are symmetrical. Once you've put your shell into that chain 3 space, chain 1, skip the next single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space. Sorry, I lost my train. All right, so once you put the shell here, you skip the next single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, double crochet into the next single crochet. All these words trip me up sometimes. All right, so double crochet in the next single crochet, chain 1, skip the next chain 3 space, and we're going to put a shell into this chain 3 space. So here we go. Once you have finished that shell into that chain 3 space, you chain 1, skip the next single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, double crochet into the next single crochet, chain 1, and then a half shell into this last chain 1 space right there. So we will do our half shell right here. We just did our half shell, and now you chain 1, and we will do our trebles into these last 2 single crochets. Woo, that's a long one, right? There we go. You can see we're starting to really build up our nice shells here. Now, there weren't any stars in that set of instructions because it was very distinct on what we had to do, and we have everything prepped now. So the next part that we're going to do is row 8 through 11, and this is what you are going to repeat for the rest of your pattern. So what we just did was really the setup so that way we can get everything where we need it to be. So that way when we continue on with row 8, 9, 10, 11, and then we repeat those, we'll get the nice size shawl we want. So up to this point, everything needs to be perfect, and everything we're going to do from here on out is what you will repeat for the rest of your shawl. So let's go ahead and start off with row 8. Okay, as we move on with row 8, I'm changing colors so that way you can better see where we are in the pattern, but you will not change colors, okay? So what we have to do here with row 8 is I will go ahead, turn my work, and we will do our chain 1. Now I will put my single crochet into this first treble, and then a single crochet into the next treble. I chain 1. Now we're back to the part of the instructions where we have stars, so it's important to recognize those. The star indicates where we will repeat in the pattern. So here we go. We will single crochet in the next double crochet cluster and then chain 3. Then it says repeat from star across to the marked single crochet. So there's my marked single crochet. That's the one I told you to mark. So we're going to repeat those instructions all the way over there. So I find my next double crochet cluster and I single crochet and then I chain 3. Find my next double crochet cluster, do my single crochet there, and then chain 3. Find the next one, work my single crochet, chain 3. The next one, do my single crochet, chain 3. Find the next double crochet cluster, do my single, chain 3. Here's the next one. Do my single, chain 3. Here's the next one. Do my single, split yarn there. I'm going to redo that one. So I'm going to go in, do my single, chain 3. Now, here's my marked stitch. Can you see it right there? So this is where the instructions are going to change up because it said to repeat this to this marked stitch. When I get to the marked stitch here, what I'm going to do is single crochet in the next chain 3 space. So I single crochet right here. Then I chain 2, and this represents the center of my shawl. So I'm going to move my marker up to that point, and I will single crochet into this chain 3 space. So at this point, I can either remove this marker or I could go ahead and grab another marker and mark that chain 2 space. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do just so that you can see where everything is. So that's going to be the center of my shawl. Now that I have done my single crochet in the other chain 3, right? So this is chain 2. Here's a single into this chain 3 space on the other side of my center. And now I chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I repeat from star. So I will find the double crochet cluster, do my single, and then chain 3. Double crochet cluster, do my single, and I chain 3. I'm going to do this all the way down to the last double crochet cluster. Just make sure you don't skip any double crochet clusters. You want to make sure you get all of them because this is the setup so that way you can build more shells. I have one right here, and then chain 3. And this is my last double crochet cluster, which is where I'm supposed to stop and do my repeat. So it says do my single crochet in this last double crochet cluster, chain 1, and then do a single into each one of these trebles. You see that? Pretty easy. So this pink here, as you're taking a look here, this is row 8, okay? So this is the row that you will actually repeat as we're working the rest of the pattern. Remember, we're going to repeat rows 8, 9, 10, and 11 for your pattern. So that's row 8. Let's go ahead and do row 9. So you turn our work and begin row 9. We begin with a stacked treble crochet. I'm excited because I actually like making these. Hopefully you do too. I think it's pretty ingenious. So that way we don't have to go back and do any sort of special edging because it makes this edge look really nice and neat. I like it. All right, so we did our stacked treble crochet and we move along. We will put our treble crochet in that next single crochet. Chain 1. Do our half shell into this chain 1 space. So we will do our half shell into this chain 1 space just like we've been doing all along. Oops. There's the half shell in the chain 1 space. Now we chain 1, skip the next single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, and we'll double crochet in the next single crochet. So we're going to double crochet right there. Okay, so now we have to do our chain 1, skip the next chain 3 space, and put a shell in the next chain 3 space. So let's go ahead and all the way over here we'll put our shell. There we go. So we have our nice shell all the way over there into that chain 3 space. Chain 1, skip the next single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, and do a double into the next single crochet. Now it says we have to repeat. So this is where we will go back to our star and we will work our repeat. We will work our repeat until we get to this marked chain 2 space. So here we go. Go ahead and find where the star is in your pattern, and it says to chain 1, skip the chain 3 space, and then put a shell in the next chain 3 space. So we will go ahead and do that. There we go. So we put our shell into that next chain 3 space. Now it says to chain 1, skip the single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, and put a double crochet into this single crochet. Now we're right here to where our chain 2 space is, okay? So this is where our center is. This is where we needed to do our repeat. So we go ahead and we will chain 1, and we will put a shell into this chain 2 space. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this marker. And into this chain 2 space, which is the center, I will put a shell. All right, so once you finish that, go ahead and you want to mark that center double crochet cluster because that is your new center point, okay? Hopefully this part, I'm just gonna leave that there still because it helps you understand where we are in the pattern. But we have just done a shell in our center position. So we will skip the next single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, and we will chain 1 and double crochet in the next single crochet. Now I will go ahead and let's see here. I will repeat from star. So I go back to the star. It says to chain 1, and it says to skip a single or the chain 3 space. Hold on. Skip the chain 3 space and then do a shell in the next chain 3 space. So here we are. We're going to do our shell down here. All these words sometimes as I'm trying to talk and crochet and look at the instructions, it gets a little bit too much. So bear with me here. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, and then I have to do one more. 2 double crochet cluster. All right, so we just finished our shell. All right, so there we go. Once you finish the shell, you go ahead and carry on. We would do a chain 1, skip the single, skip the chain 3, and do a double crochet in the next single crochet. Now, we aren't all the way to the end, so this is where we would repeat from star again. We just keep repeating from star until we get to the last chain 1 space where we will do the half shell. So we have to go back and we would do a chain 1, skip this chain 3, skip that single, work a shell down here in this next chain 3. There we go. Chain 1, skip a single, skip a chain 3, do a double crochet in the next single crochet. Now I'm at the end of my work here. I can't work any more repeats. So this is where I would go back to my instructions and take a look at what I'm supposed to do after I do all my repeats. What's the next part of the instructions? So that's the point that I am. I just finished my double crochet and that's the end of my repeat. So now I would skip this chain 3, skip this single crochet, continue on with the instructions, which say to chain 1, and work my half shell into this chain 1 space. Okay? Hopefully you're able to follow along with all of that. It's just simply repeating the instructions until you get to the end of the row, so that way you can finish up the end of the row because it changes up a little bit, right? Once you do the half shell in that chain 1 space, you chain 1, and then we would work our treble crochets in the last 2 single crochets. All right, so this is row 9. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. As I set this down, let's see here. What we've done is we have our half shell here. We have a full shell, a full shell, a full shell at our center point. And then just like this side over here, we have a full shell, and then we have our half shell, and then our trebles. So everything is very symmetrical. And you can see here where our star was indicated, right? Our star was indicated at the chain 1, and then it said skip 3 chains, skip single crochet, and then shell in this space. So this was this right here. So this was our double. Skip 3 chains, skip the single, work the shell at that point, chain 1, skip 3 chain, or skip a single, skip 3 chains, do our double, and then it repeated. So this is our repeat. So if you think of our repeat, it's from here to here. It's from here to here. This is our center point, which is just different. And then this is our repeat, and this is our repeat, and then this is our ending section. Hopefully the visual of me breaking that down helps you a little bit with understanding how the repeats work for the body of your shawl, because it's very important as you carry on and your shawl gets bigger and bigger. Obviously, you're going to have more repeats in the body of your shawl than what I have right now. Right now we have 2 repeats on either side of center. We'll go to 3 repeats on either side of center, 4 repeats, 5 repeats, so on and so forth. So you will be repeating from star to star as many times as necessary to get through all the stitches on your shawl as you are working along. All right, so that's row 9. We only have 2 more rows until we get to the point where you're just repeating rows 8 through 11. So let's go ahead and jump into row 10. Row 10 has us start off by turning our work and doing a chain 1. This is one of those easy rows, in my opinion, so we don't have to do a whole lot of extra work. So we chain 1 and work our single crochets in the first 2 trebles, okay? So we want to make sure we get our single crochets in those first 2 trebles. We chain 1 and now we see our star, and our star says that we're going to do a single crochet in that next double crochet cluster. So we'll do our single crochet in that next double crochet cluster and then chain 3. Just like before. And it says repeat from star across to the last double crochet cluster. So for this one, we don't have to worry about the center point. We're doing the instructions all the way around to the very last double crochet cluster. So let's go ahead and do that. I will find the next double crochet cluster and do my single, chain 3. Find the next one, do my single, chain 3. The next one, do my single, chain 3, so on and so forth. When I get to my center point where that single is, I'm going to go ahead and mark it just so that way I know that is the center of my shawl. I don't have to, but I'm going to. I'm going to come over here. All right, so I am to my last double crochet cluster right here, and I put a single crochet in my last double crochet cluster, chain 1, and then place a single crochet in the last 2 trebles. Pretty easy. So row 10 is real easy. It's just very similar to row 8 in that it's just prepping us so that way on our next row we can work some more shells. So let's go ahead and jump into row 11. You are almost there. Here we go. Okay, row 11, we will turn our work and start off with a stacked treble crochet. So let's jump in with that. I really like these. I know I keep saying that, but I really do. I think they're very fascinating. All right, so we did our stacked treble crochet, and we will do our treble crochet in the next single crochet. Once you've completed that treble crochet, we move on and we do our chain 1, and we work our half shell into that chain 1 space right there like we've been doing all along. We want to make sure we get that half shell because that helps us give the really nice shape to our shawl that we love. All right, so this half shell right there in this chain 1 space. Pretty easy stuff. There you go. So we did our half shell. Now moving along, we chain 1. We double crochet in the next single crochet. So that's right here. We don't go too far. We go to the next single crochet and we place our double. Now we chain 1, skip the next chain 3 space, and we will put a shell in the next chain 3 space. So we're already jumping into our nice shells right here at the very start. We're going to get some really great stitches happening here. Lots of shells going to happen. All right. Again, I'm moving along rather quickly on this part because by now you've seen me make quite a few shells. You should know how to do it. All right, so we have this nice shell into that chain 3 space. Here's where our star is, so this is going to be our repeat. Pay attention. Let's go. We're going to chain 1, skip the next single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, and work a double crochet in the next single crochet. Once you put that double crochet in the next single crochet, you chain 1, skip the next chain 3 space, and do a shell in the next chain 3 space. Now you'll notice that that's the end of the repeat because it says repeat from star to star across to the marked stitch. So we will repeat everything that is after that star until you get to the marked center stitch. So right here is where I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my shell. So let's do that. All right, so I did my shell right there, and this is where I go back to the star. So I go back, I find the star, and it says to go ahead and chain 1, skip the next single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, put a double into the next single crochet, chain 1, skip the next chain 3 space, and put a shell in the next chain 3 space. So let's go ahead and get our shell up there. There you go, the shell in the next 3 space. And we're all ready to where our marker is, okay? Remember, this is our center point. So this is where we have to move on in the instructions. The instructions say we would do a chain 3. We would skip this chain 3 space, and we'll single crochet into this marked space right there. So we're just going to place a single crochet right there. So the marker that's already in there, I can move it up. So I could go ahead and undo it and move it up into this new single crochet, because that is my center point, right? So once I mark that there, I could chain 3, as the instructions state. It says skip the next chain 3 space. So there's the next chain 3 space right there. So it says to skip that. And then it says to put a shell in the next chain 3 space. So let's go ahead and do that. Once you have your shell in that space, you then go back and work your repeat, just like we did before. So, just like we did on this side, when we worked our repeat over here, we will also do our repeats over here, making both sides symmetrical. So let me go ahead and go back to my star. Okay, so I've got my star indicated, and it says we begin with a chain 1, skip the next single crochet, skip the next chain 3 space, double crochet in the next single. Chain 1, skip the next chain 3 space, and then do a shell in the next chain 3 space. Once you've done that, you go ahead and you carry on. We have to do another repeat. Remember, we're not all the way to the end yet. So we would do our chain 1, skip a single, skip a chain 1, do our double into the next single, chain 1, skip a chain 3, do a shell into the next chain 3 space, and then once you've done that, that's where we have to go back to the instructions because we're at the end of our repeat. So all of this is going to be, the instructions are given at the end of where it told us to go and repeat. So let me go back to that part. All right, let's see here, blah, 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 blah. Repeat across to the last chain 3 space. So there's my last chain 3 space. So I do a chain 1, skip my last chain 3 space, double crochet in my last single crochet right there, chain 1, and then work my half shell into this chain 1 space, just like I did on the opposite side. Remember, both sides are symmetrical. I know I keep saying that, but I think it's important to say that out loud, so I am doing that. Once you finish your half shell, go ahead, chain 1, and then work a treble into that first single, and then work a treble into the second single. Once you've done that and you set this down, you should have a total of 2 half shells and then 6 completed shells. Congratulations, you made it all the way through the setup row, row 1, and then all the way through row 11. Now the next part of the instructions tell you to repeat rows 8 through 11 until you get through row 51. After row 51, you then would do row 52, which is just a repeat of row 8. And then you would do row 53, which is very similar to row 9 with a couple of little tweaks. I don't think that you need the instructions for those 2 rows because they literally are what we just learned. So you could do those without any problem. So what you need to do now is go ahead, take all of the knowledge I just gave you and finish the body of your shawl through row 52. Once you've done that, why don't you join me back here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel for video number 2 for the edging of this beautiful shawl. That way you know exactly where to pick up in the instructions and you'll have no problem whatsoever. All right, that's it for this video. Make sure you tune back in for video number 2 to learn how to do the wonderful edging for the Margaux Chic shawl designed by my best friend, Rebecca Velasquez. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns, and I'll see you back here soon. Bye. Everything you need to know about knitting or crochet can be found right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. Learn with Marley Bird. Visit youtube.com/Marley Bird.